Hi, I'm Raylene, and welcome to Khaleesi Clues. In this video, I will be discussing all of the hidden clues that I have found in Episode 4 for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms titled 7. This is not an episode breakdown video where I summarize the events that happened during the show. This video is all about future predictions, theories, and hidden clues found within the events of the episode for the characters Sir Duncan the Tall and his squire Egg. So here's your spoiler alert. If you haven't already watched Episode 4 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, or if you don't want to hear about possible theories that may or may not come true in the future storylines, then you may not want to watch this video. So let's get started. Clue number 1. Sir Duncan is brought in to face Arion for his charges. Arion is cracking chestnuts on the table. It's crude symbolism for Arion busting Duncan's balls over their fight at the puppet show. He's not going to let Dunk get away with anything, and he's going to make everything as difficult as he can for him. As Arion slams his dagger hilt down to crack another nut, one ends up flying across the table, landing in the lap of Lord Ashford, and then falls to the floor. Arion signals for him to get down and pick up the nut. There are lots of hidden clues in such a simple little scene. First is the chestnut itself. One of Sir Duncan's horses is named Chestnut. Now, the word chestnut can refer to the color of the horse, but it can also define as an old story. Now, can you think of an old story that has been repeated and has become more familiar to us thanks to the House of the Dragon series? Yes, Aegon the Conqueror's prophecy that is hidden on the cat's paw dagger. And what do we see Arion using to crack those chestnuts? His dagger, and although it's not the cat's paw dagger, it is symbolism for that blade. Now, Aegon the Conqueror's prophecy, which is an old story, is hidden on the side of the blade. It reads as follows: "From my blood come the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire." Now, hold that thought, because I wanted to add in a clue that I had found in the House of the Dragon that also ties into this symbolism. It's a scene that took place between King Viserys and Alicent. While King Viserys was defending his dark-haired grandchildren to Alicent, he tells her an odd story about a black mare and a white stallion that mated, and the foal was born with the color chestnut. It was a random scene and seemed silly at the time, but it had hidden meaning to it. What I believe that story represented was Rhaegar Targaryen with his white hair as the silver stallion, Lyanna Stark with her dark hair as the black mare, and the chestnut foal that was birthed is not a color reference, but an old story reference. The prince that was promised, the birth of Jon Snow. I just wanted to address that little clue since it also shows that the chestnut is a symbol for the prince that was promised, also known as Jon Snow. The scene continues, and Duncan is explaining how he knows no other people to participate in the trial by 7. Just as Arion speaks the words, "If a cause is just, good men will fight for it," it shows Lord Ashford crawling around on the floor and has reached the chestnut, which has coincidentally fallen by the feet of Baelor Targaryen. So let's pause for a second. The lines, "If a cause is just, good men will fight for it," not only refers to the future prince that was promised, Jon Snow, but also refers to Baelor's later participation in the trial. But there's another symbolism clue, which is actually Prince Baelor's feet. Have you ever noticed how Dorne is shaped? It's actually shaped like a boot or a foot. Baelor is also part Dornish. But guess who else is a Dornish prince? None other than the prince that was promised, Jon Snow, who was born at the Tower of Joy, which is located in Dorne. which, by the way, is very important for the future storyline and also harkens back to King Viserys' prophetic dream about his son being born with a crown and all the dragons roared as one. Jon, being a child of the north and south, ice and fire, actually unites all the kingdoms. The final part of the scene is Arion's final words to Dunk. If not, it will be because you are guilty. And you can hear the thunder roll in the background as the camera is focused on Duncan. The thunder is a symbol of Norse gods Odin and Thor, which are symbols of the Great Other. In my previous video, I had mentioned how I feel as if the Great Other side likes to throw obstacles in the paths of R'hllor's possible heroes in this story as an attempt to change their paths or destiny. The thunder rolling in the background at the same time of Arion's line for Dunk possibly being found guilty made me definitely want to throw a penalty flag in on the field and scream, "Interference," because it sure does feel like the Great Other has had a hand in this entire situation that Dunk has landed in. Arion is yanked out of the room by his dad. Lord Ashford bumps his head under the table as he holds up baby Jon, the chestnut, that he was sent to retrieve. Lord Ashford bumping his head is now a symbolic Duncan the Tall with a baby Jon held in his hands. So there you have it. That silly little chestnut scene had a huge hidden meaning to it and also clues to Duncan's role and importance in Egg's life and the future birth of the prince that was promised, Jon Snow. Clue number 2. I'm not sure if I would qualify this one as a clue or more so as an interesting scene. Maekar Targaryen asks, "What is a trial of 7? Baylor explains that the Andals believed that if the 7 champions fought, the gods, being thus honored, would be more like to intervene and see the guilty party punished. The interesting part to me is the mention of the idea that the gods might intervene in events that are taking place, which is exactly what I've been feeling and saying in my videos. It always reminds me of this old movie from when I was a kid called Clash of the Titans. I just remember how the gods from above were moving these little statues around, that they were made in the likeness of the characters, and how by doing these things, they were intervening all the time in the fate of the people. One giant strategy game for the bickering gods. And I do feel as if these gods, R'hllor and the Great Other, may be intervening in ways to help or hinder their chosen champions that will eventually become the heroes or villains down the road in the final war. Another interesting thought I had was that the idea that although Arion is a horrible, disgusting person, that maybe he was guided a bit by the Great Other side by choosing the trial of 7, thinking it would surely doom Duncan to either death or dismemberment at the least. But because this trial of 7 was evoked, it now allows for a bit of interference by R'hllor and actually ends up saving Duncan's life and limbs in reality. Clue number 3. Just another special mention, Stefan Fossaway's dishonorable, deceitful trickery that he plays on Dunk is a sure sign of the Great Other's influence, because that's exactly how they roll. They like to play dirty, and mockery is a huge favorite of the Great Other side, which is also why I think characters like Peter Baelish has the mockingbird as his sigil. A perfect example is the famous Brandon Stark and Peter Baelish duel, when he basically acts out the future events of Rhaegar's death. It's not a coincidence. It's deliberate mockery to R'hllor. Clue number 4. Here's another few lines that grab my attention. Daeron and Egg are telling Duncan about how Arion can be quite the monster, and that he even threw Egg's cat down the well. First off, we have to remember that Duncan is also called a monster in his youth, running wild in the slums of King's Landing. Later, after he becomes Cold Hands, he again refers to himself as Brandon Stark's monster. We have all seen what a horrible monster Arian can be, but I have to also point out a bit of possible reasons that may be behind his horrible actions. And he is a Targaryen, blood of the dragon, and definitely a target for the great other side. All of the Targaryens, Starks, and maybe even the Lannister lines are huge targets. The fact that Arian threw Egg's cat down the well is a horribly cruel act, but I'm looking at the symbolism of the act. Like I said in the past videos, cats remind me of the children of the forest with their cat eyes. The fact that he threw the cat down the well, which is basically a symbol of the underworld and is where the children of the forest shelter and hide. So maybe it's almost like his actions are an uncontrollable instinct. That dragon blood that is in him, maybe he is just not strong enough to control that power and keep his anger in check. Not that it excuses his actions, but again, we don't know if he is being corrupted by the great other side. So here's my opinion on Arian and basically a whole lot of other disgusting villain-type characters for this story. I believe the majority of the evil characters are victims of interference by the great other side. A lot of these characters are poisoned and driven mad by these things. Perfect example is King Viserys in House of the Dragon. We literally watched his flesh rot off of him, almost like he had been infected by a parasite or an egg larvae, which again is mockery of the name Aegon, that then consumed him from the inside out, which I made that comparison to the clues that they placed throughout the TV series in past videos. Another example is what Varys did to Daenerys in the final season. He poisoned her food the night before she went Mad Queen on King's Landing. I do not believe that the Targaryens have an issue with hereditary madness due to their inbreeding. There is something special in their bloodline which helps burn away natural illnesses, and maybe that includes mental illness. But the key word is natural. That doesn't apply to poisons or magical potions, which is supposed to be a dishonorable way to kill an enemy. But we are talking about a dishonorable enemy that we are dealing with, and all the rules are off the table. I don't know. Getting back to Arian, unfortunately for him, he has probably been a victim of corruption by the great other side. Clue number 5. Daeron tells Duncan, "I dreamed of you. I have seen you, sir, and a fire, and a dead dragon, a great beast with wings so large they could cover this meadow. It had fallen on top of you, but you were alive, and the dragon was dead." Daeron wasn't lying. As we will soon see, his dream comes true. But here is the kicker, and exactly why prophecies are so difficult to decipher. The dream Daeron has is not only referring to the coming events in the next episode, but the fire reference, which I believe is not mentioned in the books, is actually a sure sign that he is referring to the future event in store for Dunk and Egg with the horrific Summerhall fire. Remember what I said in my last video? It was an ambush. That great beast with wings so large it could cover the meadow is the great other that most likely came through in the fires. And just like Odor is supposed to hold the door is symbolic of a dragon. And Duncan's actions at Summerhall is going to most likely be the same, where he will be the one to hold the door or hold back the dragon, the great other. There are more clues to the events that took place at Summerhall, but I need to do a separate video for that. Clue number 6. Duncan hears Tenzel saying, "You are no knight, you are Florian the Fool," as if she is mocking him. It shows Duncan holding Florian's head, which looks like a silver dragon egg in his hands. I believe that is symbolism for the stone dragon, Winter. The puppet head being shaped so similar to a dragon's egg also makes it a symbol for his squire, Egg. And not only Egg, but also a future Aegon, the prince that was promised, Jon Snow clue. Like his birth or fate lies in your hands, Sir Duncan. His actions at Summerhall save Rhaella Targaryen and at the same time the birth of Rhaegar. And just a little side note, since we are talking about Winter and Jon Snow, Daenerys, as the princess that is promised, wakes dragons from stone, which is when she is able to hatch the baby dragons from those stone-like eggs. Jon Snow, as the prince that was promised, will wake the stone dragon, which is the white dragon, Winter. So both of them complete that prophecy. And I'm going to slip in a funny memory for me. A few years ago, I was able to go to the California House of the Dragon Con, and I actually got to meet Kit Harington along with many of the cast members from House of the Dragon. One of the events where Kit was on stage doing his interview, one of the fans was able to ask him if he had a dragon, what would he name it? And he came back with some random name and said, Craig. And here I was in the audience doing everything that I could to keep myself from getting kicked out of that show because all I wanted to do was scream out, Winter. Winter is your dragon and winter is coming. Honest to goodness, I mean, you only said it 100 times throughout the show. I mean, does this guy truly know nothing? I mean, seriously, what a goofball. I definitely expected something better than Craig. And I actually did meet him face to face during a signing event. And I hate to say it, but I was so disappointed. Jon Snow is my absolute favorite character. And I was just so sad after meeting Kit Harington. I thought that meeting him was going to be the absolute highlight of the trip. But it was ranked at one of the lowest for me. I should actually do a video about my experience at the con because I really did enjoy it and it only had a few bad experiences. I highly, highly recommend if you ever get a chance to go to one. I missed all of the cons that took place when Game of Thrones was going because my kids were too young for me to leave for any length of time. But if I ever get another chance to go to another con, I'll be there in an instant. What a crazy coincidence. My last clue for the episode that is titled 7 is clue number 7. Steely Pate gives Duncan his beautiful shield that Tenzel painted for him. Duncan is upset because all he sees is doom in the images and the colors that were chosen for his shield. But just like prophecies, there is always more than one way that things can be deciphered, and it's all in the way that you look at it. Steely Pate points out to him that the tree symbols life with its green summer leaves. But did you notice the shape of the tree? It's like a wolf's profile, like a nod to Bran Stark's direwolf Summer. Don't forget that the green tree is also a dragon symbol, and the color is definitely symbolizing the green dragon Summer that will be coming in the future books. And yes, Duncan, that falling star seems like a bad sign and very well could be, like a Lucifer or fallen angel type symbol, or even an evening star. Combine that with the sunset colors in the background, which also gives a nod to the Egyptian god known as Set, which I also believe inspired the name George R.R. Martin selected for the Sunset Sea. It's just a play on the words, too. Yes, that sea lies to the west where the sun goes down in the sky, but it is also a clue to the drowned god. The word evening can suggest night or darkness, bringing a day to an end, but it can also mean justice, evening the score, or leveling something. This is exactly why it is so hard to decipher George R. R. Martin clues, because they can literally mean multiple things. It all basically boils down to what choices these characters make that takes them down different paths. Duncan's fate might end with him becoming a monster when he has become Cold Hands, but a monster for which side of the war? And it may even be an act of heroism that lands him on the wrong side of this war, captured and enslaved to the great other side. Let's hope he chooses well in the future stories that George R. R. Martin is planning to write. Special note about Duncan's shield is that the fact that Sir Arlen's sigil was the silver-winged chalice on a brown background. Brown color can be described as chestnut. We already know that that chestnut can be a symbol of the prince that was promised, Jon Snow. And a silver-winged chalice not only has the color of the winter dragon, but with the wings, it can symbolize a dragon. The winged chalice also immediately makes you think of the Holy Grail. A quick description of this is a legendary Christian relic traditionally identified as the cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper and to collect his blood at the crucifixion. Originating in the 12th century French literature, it symbolizes divine grace, healing, and immortality. I also did not want to forget to mention that even the falling star's symbolism as Lucifer or a fallen angel, you have to remember that Lucifer means light bringer. So everything about Sir Arlen's shield represented the old story about hope for mankind and the birth of the prince that was promised. Now, keep in mind, that has now all been painted over, covered by what could be considered as symbols of the great other side. This, to me, is a perfect example of the feuding gods, R'hllor having Sir Arlen placed in Duncan's path to help guide him and teach him, and the great other is now trying to claim Duncan for his side of the war, eventually turning him into Cold Hands, who Bran Stark considers a monster from old Nan's tales. There is still a lot of mystery about this character, and I'm sure there will be a ton more of clues revealed in the coming episodes and seasons for this show. Last thing about the shield before I go, the winged chalice is painted over, covered, or basically hidden, just like Jon Snow's birth and his true identity. He was hidden to protect him because he is so hugely important in the great war to come. Well, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed some of my theories and thoughts. I just love this story and enjoy talking about it. Please feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions. Please hit the like button or subscribe to my channel. I don't make a lot of videos, but I do enjoy making them when I can. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and please excuse my voice throughout this entire video. My whole family has been sick with the flu these past couple of weeks, and I'm fighting off what I can. Thank you so much, and everybody have a great day.